Section 2, Concept Clarity and Stress Testing with AI. Now that we've talked about why event builders burn out, let's move into something much more practical. Before money gets spent on venues, before guests are booked, before anyone starts designing flyers or social media posts, there's one thing that can save an enormous amount of time and stress. That is testing the event idea. And I want to start this section with a small story from my life, and it'll explain how I think about events. Long before I was producing conventions, I was throwing parties in high school. Nothing fancy, just friends getting together, but something interesting kept happening. Every time I organized one of these events, more people kept showing up. Friends told friends, people brought other people, the room kept getting fuller. And I realized something that stuck with me for all this time. I love creating the experience of the party. Not just being at the party, creating it. Thinking about the music, about the vibe of the room, thinking about who would be there and how people would interact. That feeling, building, of course I love building. Building a place that people actually want to go to is the same thing that drives great events. When I plan an event today, whether it's a convention, workshop, or community gathering, I still think about it the same way. I ask myself one simple question: what kind of party would people be excited to show up to? Because if the event feels like a good party, the kind where people feel energy, curiosity, and connection, people naturally want to come. This is the first teaching moment I want to give you. Great events are not built from logistics. They are built from experience first. The logistics support the experience, the venue supports the experience, and the schedule supports the experience. But the experience is the heart of the event. So when thinking about the event idea, the first question is not, how do I organize it? The first question is, why would this be a great party? Imagine walking to the event. What do people see? What do they hear? What are they excited about? Who are they talking to? What moment are they going to tell their friends about? If those answers start forming clearly in your mind, the event idea is getting stronger. Now, before we bring AI further into the process, there are two small exercises that can make an event idea stronger. The first one is the front door test. Imagine the event is already happening. People are arriving. Someone opens the door and walks into the space for the first time. What do they experience in the first 30 seconds? Do they hear music? Do they see people excitedly talking? Are artists and vendors showing interesting things? Is there a stage where something is about to happen? Or is the room quiet and confusing? Those first 30 seconds matter more than most builders realize. Great events pass the front door test immediately. Someone walks in and thinks, oh, this is cool. Something is happening here. When planning an event, it helps to imagine that moment clearly. Because if the first 30 seconds feel exciting, the rest of the event can grow naturally around that energy. Then there's another quick test that helps clarify whether an event concept is strong enough. It's called the one-sentence event. If an event idea is clear, it can usually be explained in one sentence. For example, one-day workshop where indie horror filmmakers learn how to shoot their first micro-budget film. That's clear. Or a fan convention celebrating practical monster effects in horror movies. Also clear. But if the description sounds more like it's kind of a creative event with different things happening and maybe vendors and panels, then the idea probably needs more clarity. And that's where AI becomes incredibly useful. Instead of trying to think through every possibility alone, AI can help you expand the idea very quickly. For example, imagine starting with a simple concept. An event for independent horror filmmakers, that's the starting point, but it's still vague. Opening your AI tool, whichever it is, and asking a question like, what kinds of experience would make an indie horror filmmaking event exciting for attendees? It suddenly produces possibilities. Maybe it suggests live effects demonstrations, maybe short film showcase, maybe a pitch session where filmmakers present ideas to each other. maybe hands-on workshop. I love those. Those are always my favorite. The point isn't that AI designs the event for you. The point is that it helps the idea evolve faster. And when ideas start evolving, creativity unlocks. There's another teaching moment that many event builders overlook. Clarity is more powerful than size. People often imagine their first event being huge, big venue, hundreds of attendees, multiple stages. But some of the strongest events start small and incredibly clear. A single room of people who care about the same thing can create more energy than a large event where no one knows why they're there. This is another place AI helps. You can explore the idea from different angles quickly. Different audiences, different formats, different experiences, instead of guessing for months what you can test. There's ideas in minutes. And as the concept becomes clearer, something important happens. It becomes easier to explain. And then an event is easy to explain. It becomes easy to promote. People instantly understand what they are inviting their friends to. And that's when an event idea begins turning into something real. So the goal of this stage is not perfection. The goal is clarity. Clarity about your audience, clarity about your experience you're going to choose to do there, clarity about people who want to show up. Once that clarity exists, the rest of the event becomes dramatically easier to build. Before moving into the next stage, there is one more lesson. Okay, keep saying one more, about events that took me years to really understand. Events run on energy, not logistics, not schedules, not even marketing at first. Energy. When people walk into a great event, they feel something immediately. There are conversations happening. People are curious about what's around the corner. Something interesting is going on somewhere in the room. The energy is what makes people stay longer and tell their friends to come back the next year. I think back to those high school parties that I mentioned earlier. The reason they kept growing wasn't because I had better decorations or some master plan. It was because of the right mix of people that showed up and the energy that built naturally. Events work the same way. When the concept attracts the right audience, the room fills with the right conversations. That's when an event starts to feel alive. It's alive. And there's a simple way to stress test whether an event has that potential energy. This is called 3 questions that kill weak events. If an idea struggles to answer these questions, the concept probably needs more work. The first question is this: why would someone leave their house to attend instead of staying home? People have limited time. Something about the event has to feel special enough to make the trip worthwhile. The second question is, why would they tell a friend about it? Events grow when people invite other people. If someone can't easily describe why the event is interesting, word of mouth never really starts. And the third question is this: would the event still work if it started small? Strong event ideas work even in small rooms. Weak ones only work if hundreds of people show up. If the idea survives those 3 questions, it usually means the concept has real potential. Once that kind of clarity exists, the rest of the event becomes much easier to build. Before we leave this section, there's one more simple way to test whether an event idea is really ready. I call this the invite test. Remember how I mentioned earlier that I like to think about events as great parties? Think about how invitations to a party work. If someone invites you and says, hey, there's something happening Saturday night, that doesn't create that much excitement, unless it's like, celebrity you love. But if they say, you have to come to this, there's going to be great music, interesting people, and something fun happening all night, suddenly it sounds like something you don't want to miss. Events work the same way. If the invitation to the event sounds vague, people hesitate. But if the invitation paints a clear picture of the experience, curiosity starts building immediately. So here's the test. Imagine inviting a friend to your event. What do you actually say? If the explanation feels awkward or confusing, the concept probably needs more clarity. But the invitation rolls out naturally and sounds exciting, That's a very strong sign that your event idea is going to work. Good events spread the same way. Great parties do. People tell other people. That kind of word of mouth energy is one of the most powerful forces behind successful events. When the concept passes the invite test, the event is ready for the next stage. And once the concept is clear, we can move into the next stage because the next challenge is visibility. People need to hear about the event. They need to get excited about it before moving on. There's one more layer to this idea. Yeah, I know, so many layers. That's worth understanding when an event concept becomes clear. It does something important for the builder. It gives direction to every other decision that follows. The concept influences the venue you choose. It influences the kinds of guests or speakers you invite. And it influences the way the room is designed, the music that might be playing, the schedule of the day, and even the tone of the marketing. Think of a concept like the spine of the event. Once the spine is strong, the rest of the body can grow around it. This is always where the idea of stress testing the concept becomes useful. Stress testing simply means challenging, the idea from a new, different angle before committing to it. For example, take the event idea and ask a few questions. If someone heard about this event for the first time, would they immediately understand what makes it interesting? Would the experience still be exciting if the event were smaller than expected? Would people still show up if there were no celebrity guest attached to it? If the concept still feels compelling after those questions, that's a very good sign. Another way to stress test an idea is to imagine explaining it to 3 different people. A close friend, of course, someone who is part of your target audience, and then someone who knows nothing at all about it. Understand what the event is about and why it might be interesting is the concept that's probably strong. AI can help with this. You can literally ask it to challenge the idea. For example, a prompt might look like this. Here is my event idea. Help me stress test it. What potential weakness should I consider? The response might highlight things like audience size, competition from other events, or ways the experience could be strengthened. The kind of feedback used to take weeks of research and conversations. Now it can happen in minutes. And once a concept survives a little bit of pressure like that, it usually becomes much more confident and much easier to build around. And that's where AI becomes incredibly powerful again. In the next section, we're going to look at how one clear event idea can turn into weeks, even months of marketing content. Let's move into that. If you've been thinking about building your own event and want help actually mapping it out, go to the link and request a session. Tell me what you're working on.